Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Look, folks, as you guys know, it is getting down to the wire. But you know what? I tell you, all week, how did you feel this weekend? How did you feel about all that stuff that was happening this weekend? Were you happy? Did we feel like a responsible country? Did we feel like the leader of the world? How did you feel? I'm interested. Welcome, Michael Rudnin. How are you doing? I know you were really sick over the weekend. How are you doing, my friend? Keep us posted. We want to know how our good buddy is doing. So why don't you let us know how you're doing, my friend? We want to know. We definitely want to know how you're doing. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. I tell you what, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right into the show right away, and then we'll get, Bridge MCP said, yes, I'm annoyed. Michael Rudnin says, how did I feel this weekend? Laid out. But you still haven't told me how do you feel now, Michael. That's a big interest that we all have. We want to know how one of the major parts of our family is doing. How are you doing right now, Dr. Rudnin? Let us hear about that. Anyhow, Zoe Kiva Camphor Atkins says, gaslighted. Getting down to the nitty gritty, ride that thing like Bronco Billy. You guys are wonderful. I love the hyperbole that you're giving. Well, actually, it's not hyperbole. I think it is actually true. Anyhow, let's go ahead and start talking about what is the show gonna be about today. Today's show title. Michael Rudnin says, I'm still sick. Have a doctor's appointment tomorrow after 2 delays. I am tired of this. Okay, look, we're going to get into the show, but I want you to listen to Michael Rudnin right now. We don't want Medicare for all. What is the trope that people use on Medicare for all? You're going to have to stop and you're going to have to wait to be seen. There are going to be lines to go in. Brother Rudnin has been sick for 3, 4, 5 days now, and he's trying to get an appointment to see a doctor. And look at what he's telling me. He's been after 2 delays. He was supposed to go over the weekend. Today's Monday. He's not going to the doctor till tomorrow. What would they expect him to do then? If he feels really bad, go to the emergency room and then increase the cost? That is what we're talking about. When progressives talk about solving problems, when progressives talks about solutions, we're saying stop allowing them to lie to you. In America right now, there is restrictions. In America right now, there's rationing of health care. What Brother Rudnin is going on is not called rationing, but guess what? Specifically, it is rationing. Anyhow, infected White House, Trump COVID irresponsibility, RIP medical debt founder speaks. That is our topic for today. Trump has been irresponsible from the inception of COVID and since being infected. RIP medical debt co-founder discusses debt in the COVID era. This guy has gotten rid of over $2 billion of debt from people. Michael says, yep, they told me that if I feel bad enough to go to the emergency room, I just need a checkup and a COVID test. You know, brother, you are responsible, Michael Rudnin. A lot of people first, they get a little pain here and they run to the emergency room. You are what a typical person is about. You say, I feel bad. I know it's not, it's very terrible. I can wait. But what I'm saying is, if America was the utopia with private health, with private insurance and all of that as they speak of, you would walk in and get care, right away. Anyhow, continuing. Topics for today. George Stephanopoulos grills a Trump spokesperson who fails to get it even with a president that is infected with coronavirus. Trump must go. The responsible COVID-infected president endangers many with his continuing bad acts. Joe Biden, the responsible presidential candidate, talk about wearing masks. Who is fit to be president? I'm going to show you something that I put side by side. I spent a little time just before the show putting them side by side. White House super spreader event continues to grow. More victims infected with COVID. And RIP, last subject for the day is RIP medical director co-founder speaks on debt in the COVID pandemic era. All right, let's go ahead and get started, my brothers and my sisters. Here is Stephanopoulos really letting it fly. Even as the president is infected with COVID-19 and hospitalized, and we really don't know what the outcome is going to be because you cannot trust anything coming from the doctors being led by the White House, we still have the president's enablers. We still have the president's sycophants out there who simply don't get it. And the narrative they're putting out are sort of bifurcated in the way they say things, whether to wear masks or not, distancing or not. I mean, it's a complete mess. And today, Stephanopoulos really hit up one of the president's spokespersons on it. Let's take a listen to it and then take it on the other side.
George, I think there's a really important point here is that President Trump had to take this head on. He had to get out there as the leader, not just of the country, but of the free world, and take this head on. This is a general in the field type moment that he couldn't just stay upstairs, hidden in the Lincoln bedroom or in the White House. He couldn't stay hidden in his basement saying, I'm going to shut down forever. People in this country, George, want to get life
Jason,
back to
that's true. The president had to take
go and do that.
The president had to take it head on, but he didn't have to hold rallies where people did not social distance, where did not wear masks. He didn't have to mock former Vice President Joe Biden for wearing a mask and reporters who wore a mask. He didn't have to continue to go to event after event without wearing a mask.
But I would, again, George, I'd push back on that because President Trump is one of the most tested people in the entire country. And there's a lot that we still don't know about this virus. So even with all of these things in place, we've seen that where President Trump did contract COVID, but he's one of the most safe people that's out there. And obviously, if he's in a place where he can't socially distance, then we have seen him wearing a mask. We have seen him encouraging people, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be with email, whether it be from his own voice, saying, be careful as you're out there. These are important things. So folks who come to our rallies, for example, their temperatures are all checked. They're given masks. They're urged to be careful as well. We've done that in the past. We're going to continue doing that as we go forward.
But more broadly, we've all seen the rally without the mask, the Rose Garden event without the mask. The president's family refused to wear masks at the debate. And the president seemed pretty proud of that at Tuesday's debate. Let's listen.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. And I'll have 25, 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about the disease issues, sir? We have a lot of people.
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Hasn't the cavalier approach to masks and social distancing at these rallies been a mistake? Will it change going forward?
Again, I'll push back on that and say it hasn't been cavalier at all. We take it very seriously. It's why we give everyone coming to rallies or to events, we give them a mask. We check their temperature. I'd say that with regard to Joe Biden, I think too often he's used the mask as a prop. Mask is very important, but even if he could be 20, 30 feet away from the nearest person and still have the mask on, that's not going to change anything that's out there. But also we've seen with Joe Biden, I mean, we can't all just stay in our basement for the rest of our lives. We have to get out there and live our lives and take this on.
They simply don't get it. Number one, science matters. That you get tested, it just shows that in that instant in time, you're not infected. But then if you go and do silly things like put yourself in crowds, like put yourself, even as you say, you're distancing from the crowd, you don't know the permutations of all those who that you get in contact with who recently got tested. You don't know any of these things, so you put yourself at risk. He said earlier on, Donald Trump is not going to stay in his basement. We need Donald Trump to stay in his basement. We need Donald Trump to not have infected so many people that he likely infected when he tried to get Amy Coney Barrett her or brought forth moment in the Rose Garden or on the lawns of the White House. He created this super infectious event where now Chris Christie and many other senators and many other journalists and several others are now infected because of this president. This president is ill and in the hospital now. Should we have sympathy? No. Should we wish him well? Should we wish his recovery? Yes. But we must remember, even as he sits in the hospital, they continue to lie about how they got there, and they continue not to give America straight direction. Mask up, stay low until we have this thing under control. The president remains a clear and present danger, and there's only one solution that we have: to put somebody in office who is willing to be led by the science as far as this COVID virus is concerned, and is willing to do what's necessary to bring us back an economy that works for everybody, health for everybody. That is what we're talking about. Absolutely. So that is what we're talking about. And after I did a few things that day, I decided to write a blog. But I first put a few statements on my Facebook page just to see what kind of responses I would get. And I kind of got irate because I had a few trolls that came onto the thing. And they they weren't friendly trolls like my buddy Tank 28 that is just trying to pull your fingers. Because when he's talking about more rallies, I would like to say, I know, Tank, why don't you go to more rallies and then go try to shake the president's hands and see. I wonder if you'll shake the president's hand when you go to more rallies, Tank. Actually, Tank, I don't want you to go to the rallies because I care too much about you, and I don't want you to get hurt. And as much as I think your statements are rather silly on my thread, I don't want to see you hurt. I don't want to see you sick. So, no problem, bro. But again, your man is going. Anyhow, check this out. I want to play this other video. It's based on a little thing that I wrote on Facebook and just kind of enhanced it in a blog and attached a video to it. So check this out and we'll take it on the other side. It's not enough that didn't work. It's not enough that he knew since February that COVID-19 was lethal, that COVID-19 was no flu, that COVID-19 didn't only infect the old elderly, but also the young and many others. It was not enough that his administration did nothing to ensure that we had PPEs. It's not enough that his administration didn't do all the things that are necessary that could have saved hundreds of thousands of lives. It's not enough that he was completely incompetent, not because he didn't have the support of a federal government that was ready to aid him, but that he didn't want to do it. That's a certain type of evil that is hard to see. And when he gets the infection, and as much as he tried to isolate himself from everybody, while he allowed them to mingle together, to be in close quarters, all those that are going to be close to him had to be tested. But in his ultimate wisdom or lack thereof, he didn't realize that tests are instantaneous, that these are just for the instant in time, that the test that was done every day, those quick tests, has a margin of error of 30 to 50% false negatives, and that some people that tested negative and was in his presence was probably possibly infecting him. That those people or things that he did with all those rallies with thousands of people, when you calculate just that accidental touch, that accidental flow, that it was likely this incompetent president would get ill. And now that he's in the hospital, he still wants to somehow take advantage and make this COVID experience of himself a reality show. And what do we get out of that? Oh, a parade out of that. You know, I've been told by more than one member, Egberto, stop concentrating on the president and work on what do we need to do to make things better. What we need to do to make things better is to get rid of this president. But the only way we get rid of this president in a landslide is for people not to listen to his words, but them to understand and see how bad, how dangerous this man is. This man potentially is infecting everyone in that SUV. Because you know what? That SUV is sealed. The airflow in that SUV, it is sealed. It is ensured that the outside elements don't get in. Let me tell you, all those people in that van likely have to be quarantined because they had a COVID-infected president, an irresponsible COVID-infected president in that SUV with them. But he wanted to give his show. He wanted to put on the show. He did a quick Twitter video, and then he ends the Twitter video with, "Isn't this lovely? This is a lovely experience," something of that nature. Folks, we have a kindergartner for a president. Somebody with very limited intellect. Somebody with no social skills. Somebody who really does not mind hurting other people for immediate gratification and always in need of looking for that next level of gratification, just like a cocaine addict or otherwise. We have got to get rid of this president, and we cannot do it fast enough. Now let me show you what a real president would say when it comes to protecting the people he has been hired to govern.
I don't want to be attacking the president and the first lady. This is not about freedom. It's about patriotism. You wear a mask to protect the person next to you. You wear a mask to protect the bus driver. You wear a mask to protect the person you're sitting next to on the bus. And to reject a chance to do the easiest thing possible to save lives, I find it appalling.
That is what a leader looks like. Biden is not my favorite guy. I'm a super progressive guy. But I am going to go and raise my head up high and vote for Brother Biden. And after we elect Brother Biden in a landslide, I am going to be working my butt off to make sure that we get progressive policies by the hook or the crook. But we have got to get rid of our murderer in chief. We have got to get rid of our murderer in chief. Now, one last video before, is it one last one? No. I have two more to go. This one is fun, guys. This video you should have some fun with. You know, Brother Trump likes to go out there and claim how strong he is. Brother Trump likes to go out there and talk about his virility and how Brother Biden is somehow less than. Brother Biden is sick. Brother Biden is slow. Brother Biden is a next step away from the grave, which is not true. You know, you see Brother Biden riding his bike and, you know, I mean, he's a 70-something-year-old guy. His face didn't age all that well, but the guy is in shape, right? You watch him ride the bike, the guy is in shape. I've been kind of wondering sometimes in the old days when I see him kind of fumble is go back into his stuttering mode. Yeah, he may not be as sharp immediately as he used to be, but the guy has it all upstairs still, and the guy still have momentum physically. Let's see the little thing that I put together and tell me what you guys think about it. Okay, let's go with this. Now, you guys tell me, for those of you that are listening on podcast, we just showed a picture side by side with two presidential candidates going up the stairs to see who looks like the virile guy, who looks like the exercised guy, who looks like the person in shape going up the stairs. And guess who it was? Brother Biden was in shape, his body was toned, and he was running up those stairs. And Brother Trump is there like an old man holding on to the rails and going onto the stairs one step at a time. One step at a time. And Rudnan, the reason I didn't go with the walk, okay, is I wanted a comparison. And I couldn't find Biden going down some stairs that I could, at that same kind of incline that I could use. But that's a very good point, Brother Rudnan. I should have done that sometimes. Rudnan is my guy. All right, let's go ahead now on the last thing. You know, the Trump White House is now a infectious, stinking area infected by COVID because nobody wants to wear masks, because in these people's utter, very deep intelligence, they don't have to. Come on. COVID ain't a real thing. Well, here is what we have now, as it turns out.
And now another top White House official has tested positive for the virus this morning. Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany disclosed roughly 90 minutes ago that she's been infected. She says she has no symptoms yet, and that means there are now at least 12 government officials and Trump advisors whose infections can be tied back to the White House's outbreak, including the president, two of his closest aides, his campaign manager, his press secretary, the Republican Party chairwoman, the First Lady, and at least 3 senators.
And guess what happened after that? It's not only Kayleigh who is positive, but her 2 assistants are also infected. So let me tell you what I'm wondering, right? We have Christie, we have some older folks that are infected. What Brother Trump better hope for is no one of them dies before November 3rd. Because the story that you are going to have, if one of these people infected at the White House dies, I think at that point, we really have grounds. You know, if you go around with AIDS and you purposefully infect a woman or a man with AIDS because with HIV, then you can be held criminally responsible for that. I think if anyone in that went to that particular function at the White House, if anyone dies, I think at that point, Donald Trump should be held on voluntary, not involuntary, voluntary manslaughter. Voluntary manslaughter. But it doesn't really matter. Let me just tell you, the reality is that there is going to be a landslide. Bridge says, in the day with HIV, you were arrested for murder. Exactly. Yes, you're absolutely right. Wow, we already reached 100 messages. Anyhow, folks, we are closing in on that time to go to the interview that I had. I have a very good interview for you. Now, here's the deal, though. If you're on YouTube, I want to ask a big favor. We want to keep this channel going strong. So please do one of two things. Please click on, if you're not already a member, please click on that join button. And when you click on that join button, become a member. It's worth it. And I promise I'm going to be giving you a whole lot of stuff like I always do. A whole lot of stuff. So click that join button, become a member. Alternatively, you can hit the $sign and give us a what's called a super chat. But or you can do both. Last Friday, a couple of folks did both of them. They became super chatters and they also became members. The membership is very inexpensive. I want to ask you all, we have to have a landslide, which means learn how to communicate, learn how to talk to other people, not only right-wing people, even though that's what my new book covers, but it also gives you that opportunity to talk to a lot of folks who don't think they want their minds changed, but because of the respect you give them and some of the techniques that I use, I guarantee you that you can get stuff done. So here's the link of my book. I put it in the screen, but you can also, if you don't want to buy it from Amazon, I got a message a couple of days ago that says, Egberto, you keep putting that Amazon link in there. I don't want to buy it from Amazon. Is there some other store that I can buy it from? And I said, of course, there's another store. And if you buy it from me, also you get it autographed. You take out the middleman, and all the books that ship from me, I autograph them. So you can go to politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store, and buy a whole lot of stuff at Politics Done Right. So you can buy the new book, which is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. You can also get, this is a prima donna, man. This is As I See It. You want to learn about our economy. Thank you for that super chat. Thank you for that super chat. Lived it. We can do it then. Likewise, you guys know in the olden days I had my weight problems. I solved it, and I've followed the rules, and I've kept within my 10, 15 pound range thereafter. And this is how I did it, how to lose weight now and be fit. And of course, a lot of other stuff like my cup, the Politics Done Right cup. We have T-shirts, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, you can also buy all that stuff. You notice on YouTube, we have a array there that you can say, hey, I'm going to support Politics Done Right by getting the T-shirt. I'm going to get the cup. I'm going to get the hat. I'm going to get the mask, all that good stuff we have. So please support us however you can. Now, so I asked you to join, do a join on Facebook if you can. By the way, our last super chat came from... from Lived It, and he says, after 3 years of hate, treason, and arrogance, we are supposed to feel bad that these bigots are infected. How's the niños in dog cages doing? Meaning, how are the children in dog cages doing? I hear you, brother, but let me tell you what I've learned. I'm going to tell you what I've really learned. What I've learned is hate. I used to hate. Okay, and by the way, I'm not religious at all. I'm a humanist. But I used to have hate in me. And it's corrosive. I think I put this in my book as not As I See It. I put it in the other book, the new book actually, It's Worth It. What I said is this. If you realize that people do the things they do because of what the frame that they've lived in, right? Then that hate no longer becomes hate. It becomes wanting to do something about it and realize that they are only a victim of their condition. And that's why, a lot of people will tell me, why are you hanging with that person? That person's a racist. And a lot of times I'll say, I know. And they go, so what the hell is wrong with you, Egberto? I'm saying, but that's how they were conditioned. The question is, how do you uncondition that person? And this goes with racism, sexism. I was a homophobe. And I like to use myself as an example, and I put that in the book too. Because if you can use yourself as an example to the faults that you've had, it is then easy to convince others that, hey, maybe it is okay for me to change too. I don't have to be embarrassed that I have to change and all that kind of stuff. Because we're all humans, and look, I'm Black, Latino, Caribbean. We have some faults like homophobic false man that like it's sort of instituted. We're macho people. Where we come from, we're macho people, right? Come over here and you learn other things, and it's like, damn, I'm the biggest now gay rights activist, right? Because you're changing. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I was an asshole. Okay? But you change. So what I'm trying, that's why that is a rationale that I use to deal with people. Okay? That's the rationale I use to deal with people. So no, I understand what you're saying, brother lived it. Yeah, you know, are you supposed to feel for those people who got AIDS after they've been so bad? No, but what you do is you don't let them forget who they were. Nobody should forget whatever bad thing I was. But also, they should not fail to see what people have become and judge them on what they have become. That's what it's all about, in my humble opinion. Okay, another way to support us is via, and I'm going to the interview in a little bit, via Patreon. You go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon. I'm putting those links up. It seems like these links are not making it to, sometimes they make it to Facebook, sometimes they don't. I'll fix it where it doesn't make it to Facebook. And also you can join, if you're not on YouTube right now, you can still join our YouTube group by going to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. And I just posted that as well, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Anyhow, and the last thing but not least, we also support PayPal. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Okay, let's go to our interview. I met Jerry Ashton quite a few months ago. We were on a chat with a couple of congresspersons, etc., and got to meet him and talk to him. He wrote a few books. He's a co-founder of Rest in Peace Medical Debt. These guys have paid off over $2 billion of debt on pennies on the dollar. Great guy. I've had him on before, but now he's coming to give us an update and some pretty cool, nice words. So let's go ahead and bring Jerry on, and then we'll take it on the other side. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. We have a returning guest, Jerry Ashton of RIP Medical Debt. Rest in peace, medical debt. How are you doing, Jerry?
If I were doing any better, I'd be against the law. Thank you.
Hey, Jerry, I tell you what, to kind of bring our audience up to speed, tell us a little bit about what you do with that great program that you have.
Well, RIP Medical Debt is a charity that was created to gather money from donors and take this money to the debt market where medical debt is freely bought and sold for pennies on the dollar. Our charity determines of these available accounts that are available for sale, billions of dollars worth, those that are 2 times the poverty level or below, those who are hardship. In other words, we find the weakest of all of us. And when we find those, we purchase them for less than a penny on a dollar. And once we have control of those accounts, we eliminate any bad credit marks, and then we forgive the debt.
That is not only altruistic, that is wonderful. Now, you've had success with paying off, I think over $1 billion of debt so far. Is that right?
That was a long time ago, Egberto. We are now up to $2.6 billion, and about 1.7 million families have been positively affected by our work, thanks to our donors.
That is excellent work. Well, the reason you gave us a whole lot of this information in a prior visit that you had with us, and I'm going to include a link to that in this in our data right here. What I really want to talk to you about, first of all, is with this pandemic upon us, what are you seeing? Give me some thoughts on where America is at as far as healthcare debt is concerned, and where are we going?
Well, when my colleagues and I'll get a copy of the book and show the title to you. When we wrote a book called End Medical Debt, there was about $1 trillion worth of debt on the backs of Americans. When COVID hit, we could see immediately that we had a horrible future in front of a lot of people. I'm speaking from the point of view of incurring medical debt. There are roughly 40 million people 5 months ago who lost their jobs. Maybe 10 million or so have gotten these jobs back. But when you lose a job, you lose the insurance because very few people can afford to keep up paying insurance independently. And so they're faced with a medical problem, no insurance, and they just added to the number of people who are going to be in deep trouble. For example, 40 million jobs, roughly 55% of those have insurance. So you've got over 20 some odd million jobs. You can imagine that 15 million people will now be facing a bill collector if they can't either borrow the money or have enough resources to pay for it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you're even a bit generous. I mean, even if they go ahead and have to get a debt to pay their medical bill, that other debt has to be satisfied at some time in the future. And if you don't have a job, that means that has turned from a medical debt into more likely a credit card debt or some other kind of debt that
Sure.
won't be satisfied.
Now think of there are millions of dollars being begged for on charity websites. When GoFundMe becomes your insurance of last resort, you know you're in trouble. About 15 million Americans this year will exhaust their life savings to pay medical bills.
Sadly, what I've said, and, I've told relatives this before. If I ever reach to the stage in life where there's a lot of equipment and all of that's necessary to keep me alive, let me go, because I don't intend to turn my home over to the what is the best words to call these guys, to the charlatans. I don't intend to turn my hard-earned dollars to these guys.
Well, since the United States of all industrial nations is the only nation that will allow its citizens to go bankrupt because they got sick or because they got injured, that's the first question you ask yourself or ask your friends and neighbors. Why are we even allowing this system to create the train wrecks that is creating? 60% of all bankruptcies in the United States are medical debt related. If we got rid of medical debt, 50% of all collection agencies would go out of business. That's the kind of work that's available.
That is so sad. And the thing about it is there's a lot of other work that they could do other than debt collection. Think about an expanded economy. People had more money to spend where it's actually distributed broad-based, as opposed to what a lot of people don't understand, Jerry, is people would say, oh, well, the money's going to go somewhere else anywhere. But when you're concentrating the money in things like medical debt and whatever, we're shareholders. I mean, we are talking about a small select group of shareholders that own the hospitals, that own all these different forms. If those debts are eliminated and spread broad-based across the economy, it has, because of how economics work, the speed of dollars circulating, it has a much better chance of creating a more vibrant economy. But that is not what's sold by our government or by our politicians.
That's because there's no money in it.
That's true.
There's nothing for lobbyists to turn their relationships into deposit slips, thanks to the fact that they get the ears of people who are preventing you and me from having a fair and just medical care system. Now, I want you to know that as a co-founder of RIP Medical Debt, everything I'm telling you right now is personal. As a charity, it's understandable that they need to be apolitical. As an individual, I can be as political as I care to be, and I do care to be. But in the case of charities, the line that they walk is not offending people and not appearing political. The reality is you cannot say medical debt without being political. You cannot bring the issue of healthcare up without being political. In fact, it is a life-affirming act to be sure that people understand that healthcare and medical debt are intertwined and they need to be separated.
That is a perfect statement. Now, like I said, we've interviewed entirely on what RIP medical debt is about, which I'll cross-link in this document. But I wanted to hear how you've progressed and what you thought about COVID-19 and how it's going to affect people. So thank you for that info. But now, yesterday we had that train wreck of a debate. I assume that you watched at least part of it.
I watched the whole thing. Fortunately, I had a good bottle of scotch next to me. The pain wasn't too great. When I watched that debacle, it was very upsetting. And of course, the part about COVID, since eventually so many of these people who've suffered from COVID and will suffer from COVID and their families will suffer, they're going to be deeply in debt. And to have anybody stand up there and argue against any form of relief from this enemy, to me is insane. So how did I feel about it? Well, number one, RIP medical debt itself is happening. Is that noise bothering you or is that coming out?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. You're going to be doing some editing on this?
Yeah, I'll be doing editing, but that's gonna come in. But this just means people know that you get a lot of messages, Jerry. You're a very busy and important man. That's what it means. Go ahead.
I think they're bill collectors. So some of my best friends, I guess your audience may not know that RIP medical debt was begun by two former bill collectors.
Yes, which means you guys know where the skeletons are buried.
We know it all. We know exactly how debt is created. We know how it's handled. We know how it's bought and sold like a commodity, just like your mortgage, just like your car note. There's always somebody going to make a buck on your misfortune if you happen to have that. Again, that's me speaking personally, and to be understood as such.
Well understood, Jerry. Well understood. I mean, you look. Let me just say, you have atoned. You have redeemed yourself.
If there was a right hand that can be sat at, certainly, I've redeemed myself.
You've redeemed yourself, sir.
And my fellow co-founder.
You're complicit, yes.
Yeah, my accomplice in this, Craig Antico, who grew up in a collection agency family, by the way.
Oh, wow.
It was in his genetic structure.
Wow.
He managed to shed that just as I did mine. Going back to COVID, I want you to advise your audience and maybe put up some links to it. RIP Medical Debt is having a medical debt summit virtually on October 6th in the afternoon. And I'll provide some links for you so that people can sign up. And there are going to be two important things that are going to be happening. Number one, there will be a panel on COVID-19 of people with different points of view, different ways of approaching it, who are going to be interviewed by two amazing journalists here in the United States. Noam Levy of the Los Angeles Times and, forgive me, Bloomberg, John Tawsey.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
So they're going to be having a panel. One panel is on COVID-19 and the other one is on research that's being done by 4 major universities into the impact of what it means of medical debt and also what it means to take medical debt off of people's backs. That's a study that's been going on for over 4 years now. Millions of dollars have been spent in figuring out not just it's a rumor that people are harmed by medical debt, but evidence-based proof that indeed medical debt is a scourge that we as a society cannot afford to inflict on ourselves.
I'll make sure to have those links along with the with this program. So if you send that to me, I'll make sure to get this updated. And I tell you what, we'll throw it in a newsletter as well. I think that's important. That is a rather important panel.
It will be. It's going to be at our website, ripmedicaldebt.org /
I'll include it.
summit. Please include that.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll include it all.
Yeah.
So
So what would, if you had a magic wand and if you could change things, Egberto, what
yeah.
would you change about our present system?
Well, if I could do a one right now, I would first bifurcate our system. There's a portion of our system that I would have free enterprise go full-fledged, meaning you want to do your company, you want whatever you want to do in the free markets, work whatever you want to do. Of course, following laws that says you don't hurt people. But secondly, when it comes to healthcare, I would be completely based on a Medicare for all type system, where from birth to death, we have a basic form of healthcare. And if you want anything else, if that particular system doesn't provide it, you can buy it, as long as it's not competing with what our basic system of healthcare is in the United States. I think by default, that would be the only solution. That there are things that you can negotiate about, but having everybody have healthcare from birth to death, I think should not be negotiable.
I think that's a pretty safe middle ground. Disappoint, and that is middle ground. A
Right.
lot of people would have you have no health insurance whatsoever and let the free market do what it will to you. On the other hand, there are people that think that everything should be paid for. Um, and there's some strong arguments that say even a reverse income tax, even an income for everyone, is an appropriate thing in a society in which there are fewer and fewer jobs because we're becoming more and more efficient in what we do. Our country is a national resource. Our minds are a national resource. And as such, the resource should be mined for the benefit of everybody and not just the few. So if you take a look at um, back in the days of when I was participating in Occupy Wall Street,
Hmm.
the complaint then in 2011 about the bankers and the disaster that came about, they got bailed out, we got sold out. I don't see anything any different 9 years later than what's going on in this society. However, more and more people are waking up. More and more people saying enough is enough. I cannot, the dog whistles. I'm sick and tired of lefties. I'm sick and tired of people that have to be identified either by color or sex in order to make them wrong, in order to make them less than. So this is a society which is evolving, and more people are realizing that just putting on a label on somebody, number one, isn't helpful. And number two, it's not even going to further the conversation and what you'd like to see happen. Unless, of course, you happen to be a proud boy. That might be different. Who knows?
Well,
I was told last night to stand back and stand aside, or so. I cannot, not quite sure.
I wouldn't put you in that category, my brother. But let me tell you something, Jerry. Because the work that you do, and the concepts that you believe in, and the concepts that you're promoting, both specifically not with RIP medical debt, which is a 501c3 with a particular non-political purpose, but your personal political views that people can actually ascertain. I think it's important, especially coming out of you. So you're doing a darn good job in moving the message forward. And by the way, a progressive message, that's a label, but a progressive message is a all people's message, an
Yeah,
all inclusive message. And
yeah,
when all Poland's are done, the things that we stand for. And when I say we, I'm talking about people on all sides. There are a lot of, you have to remember in the days of the civil rights, progressives were Republicans and Democrats
Can
alike.
you imagine? Can you imagine that?
Yes, imagine that, right? So I think it's important for us to do that. Actually, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book that I wrote. It's worth it, because it is worth having the conversation. It is worth talking to people of all strides. Jerry, give me a closer.
My closing is really a request, and it's a request for people to understand there are four things that make this world turn and turn for the better or for the worst. Number one, become aware. For example, with RIP medical debt, we struggled for a year and a half. Nobody ever heard of us. What are they up to? And then along came John Oliver, who did a show in which he forgave $15 million of the medical debt for promotional purposes and to have fun, but he used us as a charity that would forgive that debt. And once our name was mentioned, all of a sudden, we're overnight successes. So people have to be aware of you. Whatever you're doing, make sure that you create awareness, because the next thing is it has to touch people.
Right.
Now, I want you to know that some people cannot be touched. There's no there to touch. And I don't take that personally, and I don't think anybody listening or watching this program should take it personally. It's just, how's the phrase? It is what it is, and they are what they are. So, but for the people that are touched, the ones who did respond to our message that we needed to take the yoke of medical debt off of people's backs, to those people who were touched, the very next thing that they did was to get educated. That means they would tune into shows like this with you. They would go to our websites. They would read books. They say, who are these guys? What is this cause? Why should I be involved? And once people get educated, and I want to compliment you for your role in saying that people are educated equally to see viewpoints that embrace the possibilities of all sides. Once people get educated, the next logical thing is action. Now, in our case, that action is forgiving medical debt, and donors help us do that. The action that I would like to see people take out there is to get rid of the cause of medical debt to begin with. And much to echo you, Egberto, I don't care what business you're in. I don't care how much money you're making, as long as you're not doing harm and as long as it ends up in there being no medical debt.
Jerry Ashton, co-founder of RIP Medical Debt. Let me tell you, Jerry, I've always been impressed with you. Thank you so kindly for all that you do. And thank you for once again being on Politics Done Right.
Thank you, Egberto.
Okay, folks, I hope you understand it. And Lived It, you gave us another super chat. I love you, brother. Lived It just says, can some group make a comprehensive step-by-step outline for a new economy? Something that's more tangible than the theory ideology, how it would work. You know, before I did the book, I started doing something like that. And I speak to a lot of economists, right? And you guys see me put a lot of economists on this show as well. You have me put Richard Wolff, who is very much on the left side. You also see me put, it's funny because I only remember the leftist economists I put on, but I have 3 other economists that I put on, and we shoot the bull sometimes before and after the show. And I would come up and I'll say, hey, wouldn't this work? Wouldn't that work? And they'll say, oh, yeah, of course it would, but you can't get it through. And I'm saying, but if you convince the people, can't you? He said, yeah, but you got to first convince the people if you really want to do that. And over the years, that has proven impossible. Well, one of our members sent me a link to a guy yesterday. I don't remember his name right now. I'm going to try to pull it up, buddy. This guy has a whole series on building a new economy or whatever. But when I started to go over it, it was very technical. I understood it, right? But it would be like hell for me. Oh, Lived It, another one, another. Hey, Lived It, I love you, man. You're really throwing us a whole lot of good super chats. I just got another super chat that says, the comment earlier addressed the hate, treason, and arrogance of the past 3 years in the halls of power, not the socializing of people.to, not the people. To call tyrants victims serves some purpose other than equity. I love that. You could be a poet, brother. No, but actually I get it. And I want to repeat it because what he says is deep. The comment earlier addressed the hate, treason, and arrogance of the past 3 years in the halls of power, not the socializing of people. To call tyrants victims serves some purpose other than equity. I get it. Let me tell you what my thoughts are in that regards, Lived It. We have the people in power that are tyrants, but it's the people that you just called the socializing, those of us down here, we are the ones who put them there, right? So if we are together among ourselves, those are the same guys we can get out of there. So just a thought, we can't, but it's harder to do it under fascism, meaning a second term of Donald Trump, where he completely destroys institutions, and institutions no longer function on quasi-democracy, but start to function on as a real fascist state, Anyhow, we are coming close to the end. Thank you so kind. Hey guys, Lived It. You guys, Lived It just shows you up, man. Come on, be like Lived It. Start throwing those super chats, or just click on that join button if you're on YouTube. I'd like to see some join buttons on YouTube so I can say, hey, guess who joined? Guess who joined? We're coming close to the end of the show. I need to plug my book one more time. Folks, please go to Amazon. You can look, if you search for Egberto Willies at Amazon, you'll find all the books that I've written. I'm also writing a book where it's partially printed here on my, for those of you who are members through Patreon can actually read it online. That book is similar to who was just asking that for an economy? I think Fleming was asking about putting together a true economy. I think it was Fleming. I think it was Fleming. If it wasn't Fleming, forgive me. But anyhow, so that is what we're going to do with how to make America utopia. And people say, oh, utopia can't happen. No, we have all the wherewithal to create utopia. Anyway, for my book, go ahead and go to that link that I have on the screen for the book. It's at Amazon.com. If you don't see the link, just search Egberto Willies at Amazon and all my books will come up. You can also support us via Patreon. That's politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That's politicsdoneright.com/PATREON. You can also support us via PayPal. That is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Or you can go ahead, if you're not watching us on YouTube right now, let's say you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter or wherever, you can also just go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube and join via YouTube. Like yesterday we had our first I didn't have a lot of people. I think I had 2 or 3 people that are members that showed up. We have a lot more members than that, but that's how many showed up for the little thing that we had yesterday where we had a topic and we just went through that topic. But what I want to do is for the members, I want to have sort of a little bit more of an intimate relationship with, with discussing things, etc. We're going to start out using the YouTube chat. Eventually, we'll go to some other platform. Well, a platform using YouTube, but that, you can, if you want FaceTime, all that kind of stuff, we'll have all together. That sort of a thing we'll do. And again, please support our store by going to here is the link right there. Going to politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. If you're on YouTube, the store is right there right under the video. You can see all the t-shirts and the cups and the masks and everything that we have there. Anyhow, look, I know you can be anywhere, folks. I know you can be anywhere, and you're here watching this. Thank you for being here, Redden. Please get better. Let us know your results from the hospital. From the doctor's appointment. Thank you so kindly for being here with me. I do appreciate you. Please remember that you can share these videos. I'm asking you to share these videos so that we get some more throughput, so that we can, at least get people thinking. Even those that disagree with us, they want to think. And a lot of times when they think, they'll come around to a lot of the ways that we think as well. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EG BERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.